For those of you who don't know me, or for even those who do, I am a big sports guy. Sorry, I'm going to move this a little bit. I have a love and passion for sports. I may not be the best. I consider myself okay. But when I watch and play sports, I enjoy it to an extent. Starting off with watching sports, let's be real. Okay, so, right here. This is the Green Bay Packers. It brought me so much joy and torment over the years. What in the world just happened? There we go. If I had one man crush in the entire world, it would be this number 12 beautiful-looking man right here. Completely honest. I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I love Aaron Rodgers. I can watch that dude play all the time. The guy on the right, we don't talk about him anymore. He left, so he's dead to me. Not actually, but you understand. You understand. But my parents can probably attest. 17 Sundays plus some of the playoff games, I will sit down in my basement and I will not see them for 3 to 4 hours because I'll be watching these games. And when they lose in the playoffs, like they always do, it leads to sulking for that night. It lets emotions come out. It is a lot. Not just the Packers do I get really invested in, but the Kentucky Wildcats. Oh, I didn't even say, I'm wearing my Aaron Rodgers shirt right now, if that doesn't show anything. MVP, by the way, 2-time, back-to-back, whatever, it's okay. And this is the Kentucky University Wildcats. Very possibly I like them as much as the Packers. It's probably neck and neck right there. And this is Oscar Tshiebwe. I love that guy, but when we get to March Madness, man, I'm not even fun to be around just because I'm so locked in. I'm intense, man, with this. I will watch these games and I will be yelling. My sister knows. She makes fun of me for it, and I kind of respect it because I would probably do the same thing as her. But, man, these March Madness games, I'm thinking, okay, if we win this game, we'll play the matchup with this two. Which one would I rather play? But, I mean, we didn't make it out of the first round this year. We lost to a team named St. Peter's Peacocks. If you don't watch basketball and you can name where St. Peter's is, I will give you $1 million. Not actually, but one of their best players was a 6-foot white guy with a mustache, if that says anything. So we should have not lost to them. I watch sports a lot, and I also play sports a lot. This is me. Why are we laughing? Here. This is Game 6 of the 1997 NBA Finals. I was actually playing against the Utah Jazz, and this is me hitting a game winner to get our second three-peat of championships in 8 years. Yeah. I may be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. If I'm being completely honest with you, you guys believe me, I'm assuming. But if not, I have photo proof. This is actually me, 1992, and I'm playing against the Orlando Magic. They have the one and only Big Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway. It may be tough to believe, but when was the last time you ever saw me and Michael Jordan in the same room? Another picture. Oh, this is me in the dunk. This is me in the dunk contest when I got a nice free throw line dunk that ended up winning it. One of the best dunks of all time. It actually made the brand Air Jordan after that dunk that I did. Pretty impressive. But in all honesty, the closest I ever got to being number 23 for the Bulls was, if you flip that number around, number 32 for the 7th grade Vickery Creek Vipers. Look at that. That was an era. That was an era. Look at that. Look how perfect that, little, chubby, 7th grade me. Nice floater. That was a interesting era. I was actually really good at warming the bench that year. I got really good at giving high fives. My high five averages, my cheer averages were really high that year. Recruited by many motivational speakers and all kinds of stuff. But I don't play at this high of a level anymore. I actually play at the prestigious Dobbs Creek Recreational Basketball Center. Many of you may know of. I actually have a story about that I'm going to have to share. If you've heard of Dobbs Creek, you probably have heard its reputation. How there are many fights. We've talked about this a lot of reasons. There are fights. There are many verbal altercations. I mean, it's not for the weak-hearted if you can't take something. And that can be a problem for me. Completely honest. As a matter of fact, this last spring, I don't think any of my family was there, but it was a game where we were playing some older guys. I think they were all seniors, had some varsity guys, but there was this one big meathead kid. I'm telling you, a little taller than Darren, but not as big. Where is he? He's in the very... Oh, okay, that's ruins it. Okay. But you imagine Darren, just a little bit smaller. But this dude, man, he was getting in our team. He was getting in my head so bad. This dude was talking trash the whole stinking time. He was like being super physical. He was like knocking people out of the way. And I was like, I'm not standing for this. I'm not going to stand for this. And you know what? When I got home that night, I was not in a good mood. My dad remembers. He had his buddy over, and I was in a rough attitude after he lost that game. And it became my number one goal is to play him again and absolutely just destroy this kid. Like, I was going to go up there. I was going to Michael Jordan free throw line dunk on this kid's head. That never did happen. But we did play them again in the playoffs. And I'd say I did a little better than the first time. But what was the problem? He really did get in my head. In that game, I was talking trash. Like, I've never really done that before. And I was talking trash and getting physical like he would. The problem with that is I was not showing a whatever mentality. What is a whatever mentality, for those who don't know? This summer, we're learning about having a whatever attitude. I was truly failing at that. Here, this is a perfect representation of a whatever, not like just like whatever. Like, this is like a whatever. And whatever you say or do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus. Giving thanks through him to God the Father. Colossians 3:17. I was not acting like a Christian in that moment. I was not acting like a follower of Jesus. What would have Jesus done? Not that. I can tell you that right now. And I truly, truly did fail in that situation. And where I went wrong is I didn't show forgiveness for this wrong done against me. You may be wondering, what in the world is the purpose of forgiveness in the first place? That's actually a good question. When do we really think about we don't think about forgiveness, really. Like, we hear it so much in church. It's just like, forgiveness is just like kind of there. Like, Jesus died for it, whatever. But it is actually stated all kinds of times in the Bible. Like, you think about in Genesis, to all the VBS people in here. Remember the story of Joseph? How Joseph was thrown into a pit by his brothers. He was betrayed. Kieran back there, he remembers VBS. But he was thrown into a pit, sold off into slavery by his brothers. And you know what? Years later, when there was a famine in that region, the brothers went to Egypt for food. And guess who was second in command? Who was it? It was Joseph. And guess who had to give them food? It was Joseph. And that just, it just strikes me so hard. And then you think of other stories in the Bible, like, who knows King David and Saul? Like, Saul was chasing after King David. He wanted him dead, searching after him. But you know what King David did before he was king? He forgave Saul for the wrongs against him. And you could go all the way to the New Testament when Jesus was being persecuted. You could talk about how Peter denied Jesus. Not one, not two, but 3 times. And once Jesus came back to life, you know what he did? He forgave Peter for wronging him. But to understand what is the purpose of forgiveness, we have to see the definition from Mr. Webster Merriam, or whatever his name is, whoever wrote it. But the definition of forgive is to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. For the people who are zoned out right now, I don't know how many there are, we're going to read this all together. I know it's like something you do with like a bunch of little kids, but like, it really does help get it in your head. So are you guys like going to be able to read it with me? Yeah? Okay. So, ready? The definition of forgiveness is to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Kind of in other words, great work, by the way. In other words, it's kind of showing to learn to let go. Letting go of, like my story, a grudge that I had for, what was the purpose of that? Like, no purpose. You got it, Christopher. Basketball. I don't like that Auburn hat, though. We're going to have to talk about that. But it's learning to... We don't like Al. Yeah, we can. But we are learning to let go. And in my story, I did not show that. Yeah, I said I've held this grudge that literally just made no sense. But to be able to follow through with learning to let go and to forgive and to fulfill what God died, or the embodiment of God died for, there are 3 realizations about forgiveness we have to understand. The first one that we have to realize is we must display humility. Nice, I like that color. So, the thing about humility is, I personally, and I bet many people in this room, typically, I bet women do, but I feel like guys do not like to be looked down upon. Like, they want to be the big dog, like I do. Like, that's why I got so mad at that kid for no reason. Like, I held this grudge for no reason. And I have to be able to set my ego aside to forgive. And it's really just being like Jesus. I mean, Jesus was the ultimate idol that we're trying to be. And when you think about the night of him being betrayed by Judas, do you know what he did? He went on his hands and knees. He knew Judas was going to betray him. He knew it. But he got down on his hands and knees and washed the feet. All of like the musty, like with dust all over it, dirt, all the weird first century feet that were going on then. Didn't have the shoes that we had today. They had sandals. And it was nasty, I bet. And he washed every single one of the apostles' feet. He was the servant that we have to strive to be. But he could forgive the person who betrayed him, but we can't forgive a sibling for like a tiny little like altercation that like doesn't like affect you in 2 days. You can hold a grudge over that. You can have a friend who maybe you get into it and punch him. I don't know if we really like do that anymore, but like you can't forgive for these just like little things that you realize should not be that big of a deal, and that is something I struggle with brutally. Love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. Proverbs 17:9. We have to realize one thing about forgiveness. We have to understand that we can ruin relationships. Ruin relationship with family. Ruin relationships with friends when we don't forgive. Love prospers when you forgive these faults. But when you dwell on it, hate is built. We have to learn to put our ego to the side. Our ego that we have. And that sometimes we don't even think about. This next realization we have to understand is forgiveness does not fully heal your wounds. You may think that just forgiving somebody for something that's a little deeper than just something small, it will not totally just heal that wound. We have to realize that forgiveness lessens the grip of those who have wronged you. When someone wrongs you, they have a grip on you. They have a cloud over your head of power that you may not even realize. You have this hatred towards them, that they're in your head all the time. They have free real estate in your head that you do not even notice. I found a good word that kind of resonates with how I'm talking about forgiveness right here. And it is shafar. It's a Hebrew word. If you want to know more about Hebrew, ask Josh Ballard, because he probably would know. He reads a lot of Hebrew Bible. But anyways, shafar, maybe. The definition is to cover up, cover over, or pardon. And the one I want to really cover is pardon. Because when you think of pardon, the main thing I usually think of is like the president. The president's the one who pardons people, right? The thing about a pardon is when the president pardons somebody, this is what forgiveness pretty much is. When the president pardons somebody, they are freed from incarceration. They're freed from jail. But you know what never, ever goes away? The criminal record. That's the thing that happens with forgiveness. You can forgive someone and let that anger go. God wants you to let that anger go. But you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't make you forget what they've done. Forgive and never forget. That's the saying that it is. And that truly is what it is. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing. Out of context, you may not know what this means. But when Jesus was betrayed, he was taken by Roman guards, Pharisees, all those kind of people. And you know what? He was cast out of society. Pilate stood, and on his left he had Jesus. on his right, he had a killer. And do you know what he asked these people? He asked, who do we crucify out of these two people? And do you know what the crowd chanted? You guys probably know. They wanted Jesus gone. They wanted him gone. He was cast out of society. He was mocked, beaten. The crown of thorns was put on his head. He was made fun of for what he believed in. He was humiliated brutally. He had to carry that cross on his shoulders, that big heavy cross that's bigger than we probably imagine. He carried that all the way up a hill just for him to die on it. They laid him down on it, nailed his hands into each hand, put metal nails through to hang him up, hung his feet on there, and they left him to die. When he was thirsty, do you know what they gave him? They didn't give him water. They gave him vinegar. And when he died, they didn't even give him any sort of respect. Stabbed a spear in his side. They acted like he had no worth, and that's what they thought. But do you know what he said before he died? What he said about the Romans, what he said about Judas, what he said about the Pharisees. He said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. They had no better idea. They were not wise enough to understand. And do you know what? God, the embodiment of God, Jesus wanted to give them a second chance. It's so powerful. But you have to remember, even though we want to give them a second chance, it's not like they never did that. That will stick with them. It stuck with Jesus that they were hurting him. That hurt did not just, his pain on the cross did not just disappear when he said, Lord, forgive them for what they've done. And man, it really is just not easy. The realization about forgiveness. It is not always easy. You have to think that there are deeper wounds that are made. It's not just some little altercation you've had with your sibling. It's not just some little gossip that's been told about you. There are things that are incredibly, incredibly deep that is happening in people in this room's life right now. And has happened. Forgiveness doesn't just happen overnight. This can be a process. Like there are deep wounds, whether it's possibly an abusive parent in your life, or there is somebody that's been bullying you and tormenting you for years. And that is not just something that you'll be able to say, I forgive them, with your full heart to be able to say that. This is something you cannot fight on your own. You have God, and there are people in your life that care about every single one of you that can go to in these kind of situations. They want to help. God wants to help. And praying, meditation, asking for advice, that is how you do that. This is a picture of the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. Beautiful community of believers in Charleston, South Carolina. And in 2015, a psycho man went in and shot 9 people, and they all died. If that was me, who was at that church, and I knew people I loved and I cared, they died to a shooter, someone who's a psychopath, who deserves nothing from me. You know what I'd say? I'd probably say, he deserves to burn in hell. He deserves the worst torment he can deserve. He should get everything that's coming towards him. He should sit in prison forever. But what's so crazy about this story? This tight-knit community who lost people they loved. You know what they did? At his trial, there were so many witnesses there from that church. And they went up to that man who killed all these people. And you know what they said? I forgive you. They forgave that man for that evil act that put lives to an end. It's unbelievable. And you know, and forgiving, that is the perfect example of a whatever mentality. And whatever you say or do it as a representative of Jesus Christ himself. Because you know exactly what Jesus would have done in that situation. Jesus would have gone up to that man and he would have said, Father, forgive them, for he does not know what he is doing. And it just makes me think, if these people can forgive for something that is so impactful on their life, that could ruin people's lives, but I can't forgive for the smallest basketball altercation. Like, it makes me, put it into perspective that I need to grow up. We need to realize that this is not just a fault for some of us. We all fail at this. I'm not saying these people were perfect, but this is a perfect representation of what God would have wanted. And it should be something that we look at and we look up to. We start to close. We cannot let forgiveness be taken for granted. We let it grow stale in Christian culture. Jesus died for that reason, to give us, every single one of us, forgiveness. To him die one of the worst deaths imaginable for forgiveness, it must mean something. God's will was for us to be able to forgive each other as well as being able for him to forgive us. Give us a second chance that we can go to heaven someday. Put that anger, put it all to the side. We have to remember how important forgiveness truly is. And there's so many things that we just hear about and it just grows. We just hear it so much that we just don't think about it anymore. By forgiving, we can show the whatever mentality that we strive to have. When Jesus was sitting on this cross, let this piece of paper represent the wrongs that were done to him. The people humiliating him. People making fun of him, hitting him. Nailing his hands to the cross. I mean, the pain that he went through. And imagine this is forgiveness. This water. You may not be able to see it, but when God forgives you, when Jesus forgave those guards, do you know what it did? Do you know what it made Jesus feel? Do you know what it made the people that he forgave feel? This disappeared in the water. Uh-oh. There you go. Look. See? It disappears. It helps free us of these burdens that we've been put. These burdens that have been put on us. This cloud above our head. And it finally can be released with forgiveness. The anger can be finally let go if you truly forgive. So, I want to help you begin this journey, whether it's a big or small act of forgiveness. Remember that just tonight will not end your forgiveness journey. Doing this next activity we're about to do will not forgive somebody alone. It takes work. It takes heart. It takes prayer. It takes meditation. Whatever yours is. What we're about to do, we have some leaders who are about to pass out pieces of paper. And what we're going to do, we're going to write down wrongs that have been done towards us. Whether it's big or small, no shame whatsoever, because there are all kinds of wrongs that are done in our lives. And we're going to listen to a song. Please meditate on this.